What are these patch notes? Genuinely, I don't have the time to make a video right now. I'm supposed to be in bed, but I couldn't stop thinking about how shit this was. Okay, there's a few good things. But overall, this thing is so bad. Okay, I'm just gonna go through them, tell you my thoughts, and tell you why I think this is so bad. And because most of it is they're not focusing on any real issues, and what they are focusing on doesn't really fix anything and makes some things worse. Like a lot of things worse. Not just worse, oh, the character's not as good, but the game is worse for them. Okay? Devil Dinosaur. Good buffs. I think this one's actually good. You know what? We're getting into good stuff. Prehistoric Power. He gets more damage, like a lot more damage. That's going to be very impactful for him. More damage means more bonus health, means he doesn't die as often. And Jeff the Land Shark buff team up gets better. You know, this is what I think. I read this one and I went, oh, all the patch notes are going to be like that. You know, they all go, oh, we're going to do this thing, and we're going to buff the team up that's not used that much, so that way there's more of a balance. Then you get Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange has been a little out of the meta. I mean, he's still useful in almost every rank. Like every rank that I've ever played in, I've never not had value in playing Doctor Strange, even though I know the highest levels go, oh, he's not that good right now. He's still playable, he's still good, at least if you're just a normal guy. But this is really good. More damage per projectile, more projectiles to shoot. He gets more before he has to reload. And then the team up that's not used, the team up that's inherently worse, gets a buff. Now, I don't think this buff is nearly good enough, because sure, you don't get antied, but you still have fall off damage, and sure, it's a buff. You don't get a pull, you don't get shields, you don't get extra health on your shield. I still think the Invis one mogs this by miles, just because of how much you get from that, versus how much you get from this. All you get from this is a damage boost and no anti-heal. And even when it's enhanced and it doesn't go back to 0 every time you use it, still 6 seconds. Any good Strange will have enough to use in 6 seconds. But, you know, that's what I like. It's the right direction. Magneto, it's the right well, when you select it, the projectile now adds a minor launch up. If that's for every single stage, so you can like weave it in between things, that could be good. If it's fully charging it up, it might stay the same because, you know, fully charging it up is the problem, that you have to charge it up to do anything with it. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is the right direction. Something that was bad, and like bad to play with. If I'm playing Mag and someone went on Scarlet Witch, I'm hopping off of Mag. That's how bad it is. I'm either begging them to get off of Scarlet Witch, or I'm hopping off of Mag. It's just terrible to play with. And then we start getting into weird things. Penny Parker. Remove the immobilize effect upon hitting enemies with cyber web snare. You killed the character. I just made a video on, like, people don't understand how this character works, and obviously they don't either. You don't, but you just spam the web. Any bad Penny player will just spam the web. Like, sure, you can do it, and maybe you do it against certain tanks or certain people, but the point is to wait. Stun them when they can land in your traps. You need to stun them when they land in your traps, and you use it to cancel abilities. Those are the only two use case scenarios it has, because it doesn't help you win 1v1s very often, it doesn't allow you to escape scenarios very often, because it is a 0.7 second stun. Unless they're canceling an ability, or stopping you while you're in their traps, it's not super helpful. So, realistically, you've killed the character, but it's compensation buff. Yeah. The compensation buff is, it now applies a stack of Web Tracer that does 30% slow on the first one. And if you hit it again while the Web Tracer is on them, then they get stunned. So you killed the character. You genuinely just made her awful and terrible to play. Because, let's say it gets consumed. Then you just made it 6-second cooldown, because I need both, because now it has a max of 2 charges, so it's essentially a 6-second cooldown, and in order to play the game correctly, to play this character the way this character has to be played in order to get good value, I just have to hit the button twice. And hitting the button twice, by the way, doubles the cast time, because you have to cast it twice. It doubles the travel time, because you have to travel it has to travel twice. And it doubles the cooldown, because you have to wait for both charges, so that way you can actually stun them. Do you see why this is terrible? This is just absolutely terrible. And if it doesn't get consumed whenever you do it, let's say it doesn't get consumed, and this 30% slow, and this happen. The web tracer and the 30% slow for 1 second. Let's say both of those happen every time you use the stun, right? So that way, every 3 seconds, that doesn't change it. She just gets a little clunkier. You hit them the first time, they get a 30% slow for 1 second. You hit them the second time, then they're stunned. It reapplies the web tracer for 5 seconds, so when your stun comes back online, you just stun them again. And when your stun comes back online, you just stun them again. If that's what you were trying to prevent, just double the cooldown. Just make it 6 seconds. That's a good way to incentivize only stunning people when they step into your mines. Only using it to cancel abilities. Make people use it more scarce. I would have said 5 seconds is good enough. This is crazy. That genuinely just kills the character. And the character, let's be real, was not that good anyways. She peaks at C tier. Sometimes on certain maps, with the team up in certain maps, certain team comps, certain bans, she peaks at A tier. Sometimes. Let's be so honest. Like, she's annoying to play against. I get it. I understand it's annoying. But she peaks at A tier under the perfect scenario. If it's anything but the perfect scenario, it's probably C tier. And that's not all. They went, oh, we gotta nerf her again. Reduce the bonus health cap provided by Penny from 200 to 150. You could just fix the problem with this in general. They had the perfect opportunity to give this a compensation buff, because genuinely, if I were to change her bonus health, I would remove the healing over time. First off, remove the healing over time, replace the healing over time with the bonus health, and have the bonus health happen all the time. Because the bonus health is faster than your healing over time. It's way faster, but you only get it when you're at max health. So it only gives her an extra 200 health to start the encounter. After that first engage, after you do 200 damage to her, it's gone. And it's not like, oh, but it stays there for a while because it heals so fast. It genuinely doesn't. And then the healing for her normal health bar is so bad. It's why frontline Penny is very bad, unless you are playing a very closed off choke where you can say, you don't get to walk here, which is why I say certain maps. Because if you frontline on Penny and you're taking the brunt of the damage, you just explode. Because the healing over time is shit, and your bonus health only happens for the first 2 seconds of the fight. So what are we doing? You could have just fixed this and say, hey, increased generation, bonus health generation, that happens all the time. No health gain over time. Now you have to rely on your supports instead of trying to play in your webs. And then reduce the 1 to 150, because then there's a chance that in the middle of the fight you get to 150, right? Your actual health is still low, maybe you're still at 50 health, but you hit 150 shield and you're at 50 normal health. But they didn't do that. They just genuinely took her and shot her in the head, which is why she doesn't appear in the game, because they don't want a gun next to her, but they did it anyways. That's ass. And it doesn't stop there. This 55 to 60 increased regenerative shield. That's crazy buffs. She was already good. I'm not going to complain about buffs for a character I play. Not really needed. Especially when the mag team up makes damage in defensive stance completely nullified. So they just buffed the Gambit team up is what they did with this one. And when you're playing with Gambit, who's a permaban because he's so good, you only use the Gambit one anyways. I only use the mag 1/1 Gambit is unbanned because I like to have damage resistance. It's better because it happens all the time. I don't have to press an extra button for it. This Venom one is crazy, okay? I know people don't like Venom this time, but I do not think he's a permaban. I think there's plenty of stuff you can play against Venom. And to hit him with this double nerf of less overshield when he presses E and increased swing time, and this isn't bad because they nerfed Venom. Okay, this is bad because they nerfed Venom and they barely touched the supports that fucked him up. Because now it's a 10-second swing, which means your cooldown that you're playing around to get out is 10 seconds, which means Luna's Snowball, which is about 12 seconds, I'm pretty sure, will always be on cooldown. Every time you dive, with a little bit of variance, she will have that. She'll just have it off cooldown. That's terrible. Venom will never be able to bait out a Luna Snow cooldown. Venom will never be able to bait out a Cloak and Dagger cooldown. Venom will never be able to get cooldowns out of the way and be alive for it, he will have to leave, and then every time he goes in, there will be cooldowns back up. That is terrible for this character, and then on top of that, they lowered his survivability. Let's say they went, okay, we'll buff it to 130%, but we'll make it 12 seconds. I can go, okay. He baits out the cooldown with his normal health bar, gets a second health bar, stays in there, leaves, and he has to stay out for longer. And then you just kind of like in the same rule as Cap, where you stall on point and you high health bar, and you're just a nuisance in their backline for a long time. But that's not what they did. That's not what they did. They just made him worse without making the supports worse. Duelist. The area damage to his enemies, 40 to 30, and the cooldown is 12 to 15. 1, they killed his one shot. 2, they made it take longer to get. Now, I am not a fan of the one shot. I think the one shot is unreactable, and I think it's bad, especially when he gets really good. But for the most part, and I know he was a permaban, but why don't you just buff anything else? Make him better without doing a one-shot. Genuinely, the only way to play him right now is feast or famine. You either one-shot and leave, or die. Or you can play the tickle monster and hit as many people as you can, just keep dashing back and forth, and I want to kill you for a long time, but then you're just tickling, and you're not doing a lot of stuff. Genuinely, they killed Black Panther, too, because even though he was a permaban, even though that's unhealthy, now he's back to being absolute ass. Because the only good team-up was the one that allowed you to do the one-shot, because it allowed him to do the one-shot, and you built this character around doing a one-shot. You could have just reworked the character. You did it to Jeff. You did it to Widow. Make him better for the game experience, because the power fantasy, and I talked to Black Panther mains, the power fantasy is not, oh, feast or famine, maybe I get a kill, maybe I don't, the game's so fun because I feel like I'm doing nothing, and even though I'm taking out resources, I feel like I'm doing nothing because nothing happens, and I just have to run away. The power fantasy is the dashing. It's the dashing. They like to do the dashing. It's cool. It's skill expression. Rework him in a way where he gets to do that, and he doesn't have to be feast or famine, one shot or die. The Cyclops buff, they might have gone a little too hard. The concussive beam attack frequency boost. When he's teamed up with Gambit, he attacks faster and jumps higher. 15% attack speed increase. And whenever he just uses his E, I'm pretty sure that's his E. It decreases his cooldown faster. No, this is his right click. No, this is left click. Every time he hits his left click, it increases it by 1/4 of a second. I don't think he was this good this season. I thought he was pretty mid. In most lobbies, he can still run the game. He was still viable, but he wasn't meta. And you know what? That's good. It's good for a character to not be meta sometimes. Why are we buffing him? This might be too much. It might be too much. Can we agree that it's good for some characters to be not meta sometimes? Elsa Bloodstone. They made her snare trap, reduced the health of it 100 to 50, and the duration from 1.5 to 1.2. You know what? She was pretty oppressive. That snare trap with Devil Dinosaur was pretty oppressive. That was one of the characters where you always take that team up because it's simply so much better. And you know what? They're making it worse. That's a good change. That's a good change. You know what? Let's see if they balance any of the other divers in a way that makes that worthwhile. Because it's not like they went, oh, dive is super oppressive. Let's buff the characters that are running the meta right now. They didn't really do that. This, good change. I hate the squids. I think the squids are weird. And teamed up with Namor, they do less damage. Because those things, Hela gets one pick and then gets a second pick, your entire team is pretty much dead because now there are 2 squids. And you're taking 15 damage per second on top of whatever Hela's doing. And extra, especially when she has the Namor team up and she uses her ultimate. It's pretty much a free win button sometimes. That's a pretty good change. You know, maybe it'll get better. They only killed 2 characters, tried to make one character meta again, and not knowing that some characters are allowed to not be meta sometimes. Moon Knight. Better team up. They made the team up better. Okay, yeah. I don't know enough about Moon Knight's team ups to know if this was good, but they buffed a team up. And they increased the decay decrease the decay, meaning he can do more damage, meaning he might take his spot back from Cyclops as a large area damage dealer, because currently Cyclops does more damage on average than any Moon Knight. Like, over the course of their lifespans, Cyclops does the most damage in the game right now. Maybe you can finally take his spot back and you buff one of the team-ups. That's some good work. Why is Phoenix getting a buff? Didn't we just talk about with Cyclops that it's okay for some characters to not be meta? She was pretty mid this season. Sure, a lot of people played her. She was banned a lot, especially if you were trying to play Rocket. But it's not like she was overpowered. They increased the sparks from 35 to 40 and the area damage from 12 to 15. Didn't they just nerf that? Didn't they, like, last season, half season, and the season before, they just nerfed that because it was too strong? And then they increased the damage of her primary fire instead? So now we're going back on that because she wasn't meta. What? It's okay for some characters to not be meta, okay? That's an okay thing. I don't know if you know this, but it's okay. And then, you know what? They finished it up with something that's not terrible. They increased the team-up that you never use. 45 to 55. I mean, it still doesn't make it great, but it's not bad. I mean, you can probably now use this and then ult and win. Because everybody would have one spark. Even without Rogue, everyone has one spark, has taken 55 damage, and explodes. So, when they get hit a second time by the Phoenix, like, because you use that and then ult, when they get hit the next time, then they explode and die, and you can pretty much kill squishies with that. That could actually be good. You know what? They might have made the Rogue team-up usable. But she didn't need to be meta again. You could have just buffed the team-up. Maybe that buff to the team-up could have made her meta again if you needed her to be meta. Wolverine. Wolverine didn't need a buff. I mean, with Gambit, he had a portable Gambit ult. I mean, it's not as good as a Gambit ult, but it's kind of a portable Gambit ult. That's just his team-up. He gets Gambit ult whenever he wants. He's just reduced the decay rate from 15 to 10 seconds. From starting at 4 seconds to 5 seconds, and then rage per hit taken from 5 to 8. He just always has rage now? He's just... What? There's no... The whole point is like Emma Frost. You have to play around your meter. You have to continue to do damage or take damage with Wolverine. So that way your meter doesn't decay, so that way you can continue to do the most damage. You don't have to do that anymore. They just said, here's all the rage. We don't want any of that back. You get all of it, all the time, no matter what. This is why did we do that? Scarlet Witch, high key, they just made her the Punisher. I'm not even going to lie with you. I don't know what this means. Put my hands in the air. I haven't played Wanda, and I haven't seen this team up since the original team up back in the old team up system. It kind of sounds like the same thing because it was an 8-second and then 8-second duration because it had that bar that went there and no energy cost. It kind of sounds like that's the same thing. Except maybe they changed the cooldowns. I don't know. Maybe they changed the cooldown and the duration. I don't really know. But the enhanced effect, it becomes a toggle. I mean, I understand scenarios where you might tone it off, but for the most part, she just becomes Punisher. And do we not understand how that's a bad thing for her to become Punisher? Because you can hold left click and right click at the same time, and there's no energy cost, and that just happens all the time. You just hold that down, even if you can just pump into frontline, because that's what people used to do with the Wanda team up and they were like, oh, it has a cooldown, I need to choose my targets more wisely. But now it wouldn't have a cooldown. So you just pump into any character you want until they die. Your left click has auto aim, your right click has splash damage, and it's a very fast projectile, which means you don't really have to do any sort of, oh, they're here, so I'm going to aim in front of them so I hit them. It's a pretty fast projectile. You can just put your cursor on them, and 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to hit them, unless they're super far away, because it's a hero shooter. They don't want to have calculations in it. The game's too fast-paced for that, and I understand that. But do they not see how they just made Punisher 2.0 and made it Scarlet Witch instead? They didn't buff any other part of Scarlet Witch. They just made her Punisher. Why would you do that? And I guess, oh yeah, it's only when you have a Doctor Strange. But I mean, you're using that team up regardless. Who's using the Jubilee team up? It's ass. That's the one I tried out because I never tried this one out because I went on it's the same team up. Because at the time it was the same team up. Who's using the Jubilee one? It's ass. You just want to have your stun. The stun is area control. Why would you explode it? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then we go to Gambit. Thank God. You know what? They fixed one thing. They didn't roll back any of their patches. Their emergency patch, when they buffed the permaban character, they buffed Gambit. Because I think when this season started, shouldn't have been a permaban. I went, okay, you know what? He's still pretty good, but I don't think he's a permaban. And then they came out with buffs, and they buffed most of his kit. And I went, oh, shit. Yeah, we're banning that guy again. At least they did nerf this. But they didn't buff the one that's bad. They just nerfed this one a little bit so it's less annoying to play against. Because it used to be really good area control, like the Wanda. He essentially got a Wanda. It was a worse Cloak and Dagger bubble, plus a better Wanda, not a better, but a comparable Wanda bubble, Wanda stun, where it just sits down and stuns you over and over again. You can't walk through it. If you touch it in any way, it's going to boop you. It was very annoying to play against, especially if you threw it in a choke. So he just got both of those for free on the same cooldown, and I'm glad that they nerfed it. But you didn't touch anything else about that character. By the way, that's the bottom. They didn't touch Luna. They didn't touch Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger, who has an infinite get-out-of-jail-free card cycle. As much as I want to say Dive takes coordination and patience and baiting out cooldowns, you can't do that against Cloak and Dagger now. She can infinitely cycle back to back, even if she doesn't line up her cooldowns perfectly. It's not like it takes a lot of skill. There is overlap in your abilities. You can't just bait out her cooldowns anymore. You just can't do it. She will have more cooldowns. No matter what, she's undiveable. Where she went, oh, she's hard to dive. Now she is undiveable. Like, genuinely. Unless the Cloak and Dagger's terrible. And then who's using the other team up? The other team up sucks. We didn't get a buff for that one. We didn't get a nerf for this one. What are we doing here? We didn't get a nerf on Luna's broken team up where you can just get out of any sun for free. Oh no, I got stunned. Now I'm not. What are we doing? What are we doing? That is terrible. Why is that in the game? Why didn't you take it out? Oh, my golden girl. My golden girls. Oh my god. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? Jubilee, I think got a good change. You know what? This is one of the things. I think there are good things in this patch note. I think the bad heavily outweighs the good. And some of the bad is what's not here, as you can see. But Jubilee got a buff to both her damage and her healing. I don't think that's going to make her meta. I don't think she was very good right now, but I do think this makes her better. What this really enhances, though? The Hood team-up. The Hood team-up is going to go insane after this. Doesn't enhance her other team-up. Nobody's using that Blade team-up. Doesn't give enough lifesteal for it. There's no reason to use it. But we're going to buff this, and you know what? Fine. At least she got a buff. Didn't change anything of the team-ups. I thought that would be square one. You would look at the data and go, huh, nobody's using half of these shits. Maybe we didn't do a good enough job in balancing the team-ups to make both of them worthwhile. And then this comes out and they don't address that at all. Like, I know it's only been a month. But I watched the depth vision. They didn't even talk about it. They weren't even like, we understand not many of you are playing them, and because this has been a conversation that I've seen for the whole season, honestly. I've waited until now, because I was like, it's the end of the season, I can give a more opinion and, experience-backed opinion on the team-ups. I thought they would say something about it. They didn't say anything about it, and they don't address it here, and only, two, maybe three of the characters get some sort of buff related to their team-ups, related to one of them being bad or one of them being unusable. What are we doing? Loki. They increase his projectile speed. He was already good. I don't think he was game-breaking, especially in most ranks. He really depended on your other support, who you were playing as your other support. But, I mean, he didn't need it. We're just buffing anyone. There's nothing in these patch notes, either, that I look at and I go, oh, they buffed this character, so they need to buff Loki to counteract that. The only one I can think of is Moon Knight, but why would you want Loki to counter Moon Knight? Moon Knight's supposed to counter Loki. Supports shouldn't counter everything in the game. They shouldn't be untouchable. Like, what are we doing here? Like, there's nothing in these patch notes that read, this is why they buffed Loki. White Fox. White Fox has been so terrible this season because her neutral, everybody else got these crazy good buttons, especially other strategists, got crazy good new buttons that did everything that they needed them to do. Luna Snow gets self-healing whenever her teammates damage or heal the people around her. Okay. She also got a get out of free jail card, which is also a stun. Okay. Adam got to team up with Ultron that kind of, I guess he can kind of be a main healer, I suppose. And he also got to team up with Storm that allows you to be even more aggressive with your soul bond and use it in new ways, which is pretty cool. White Fox kind of got shit. Kind of got absolute ass blasted in the form of these new team-ups. Does not have nearly the firepower in her team-ups that the other people have, which means, as a whole, her neutral kit is lacking. Her neutral is bad. It's not very good. Doesn't have the damage output, the healing output in left-clicking to outdo poke, which she's not supposed to, by the way. She's supposed to be weak to poke and good against brawl and dive. But even against brawl and dive, she doesn't do enough damage in her White Fox form, and she doesn't do enough healing in her White Fox form to outdo either of those things. One, not both, but one of those things needs buffed to make her do more and make her worthwhile. But instead of fixing any of that, or just buffing her team-ups to make those better, to make her better in neutral, instead of doing any of that, we lowered her ultimate cost by only 500, by the way. The worst support ult, IMO. I think even Adam's, but Adam takes way more skill to use. Way more skill to use and use properly. But they lowered that one by only 500. The worst. They buffed it for 3 seconds. You get blessed by the 9. I'm pretty sure that's the invulnerability thing. And you know what? That could be really good. That could be really good. I'm excited to see that change, but it doesn't change the fact that her neutral is ass. Like, what are we doing there? To buff anything about her neutral. Sometimes I read these patch notes and I think, what are you doing? This is the only one that has actually caused me actual anger, though, because genuinely the stuff you don't have in supports, the stuff you don't have in DPS, and the stuff you have in tank, like, good, but not like, you buffed his primary before you buffed the Hulk team up. You know, the one that's ass, the one that everyone said, holy shit, this thing is so bad. You went, oh, we'll just make his base better. Why would I, if it was like this only in Gamma, you know what, maybe it makes your base more aggressive. You can be more aggressive in base form without it. But as it stands, you get that buff even when you play with Invis. So I'm just going to play with Invis because Invis Mog's strange. We killed one character. We gave one character a unneeded buff. One character a, maybe it was needed for most people. I see a lot of people banning Venom. I don't think it's worth it. I have never lost to a team that played Venom. When I lose to teams that play Venom, it's never the Venom's fault, and it's the other people on the team. Not my team, but it's like the other characters. Venom's just kind of a distraction, and I go, hey, I'm handling the Venom. I just played a game against Venom Magic Daredevil, and we beat their ass. The only anti-dive we played, by the way, me on Thing. We beat their ass. I don't think Venom's an permaban. I don't think he's that good. I think this is an unneeded ban. Unneeded nerf. This, good. This, weird. Not very good. Kind of bad. This, hopefully good. This, bad. This, unneeded. This, bad. This, bad. This, bad. It's okay for him to not be meta. This, okay. I can see it. It's pretty oppressive. This, good. This, good. This, bad. This, bad. This, bad. This, good. This, good. This, weird. This, bad. And then the stuff that's not mentioned here is just bad. What are we doing? I would think after 2 years, and you listen to the community very, very well. The devs listen to this community extremely well, better than any other dev team out there. You really have to give them their props because they are an incredible dev team. But you would think after 2 years, they would understand it and not be doing things like this. But anyways, I guess that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think.